All right, welcome to this section where I'm going to actually teach you and talk to you a little bit about how your bladder functions and what it exactly does and how kind of urine travels through your system. So I brought this picture up because I think it's a really great depiction of what you can kind of look for and look at. Because if you see, you can see where the bladder sits right here, and then you can see the ureters, and the kidneys are up here, by the way. It just doesn't show the kidneys, but the kidneys are up here kind of like where the low back is, and that's why a lot of people will experience low back pain when they have kidney problems. So what happens is the kidneys will make the urine, mixes blood, mixes things like that, and it makes the urine, and it will make up to 1 to 2 quarts of urine at a time. And the urine hangs out in the kidneys until the signal from the brain says, hey, release that urine. The urine goes down here into the ureters. That's what these little lines are. The ureters are going to go down and they travel into the bladder. And then what happens in the bladder is the bladder here fills up with the urine. It can hold at any amount of time, an actual full bladder will hold about 2 cups of urine. So the cool thing is that your bladder has 2 functions. It fills up with urine and then it releases urine. And what it does is it actually is a muscle. And so it relaxes completely to allow the urine and the waste products and things like that. It relaxes to allow it to fill up with that 2 cups of urine. And then what happens is there's a signal that is sent from receptors that hang out in the bladder. They are sent all the way up to the brain. And then the brain sends a signal down to the muscles in the bladder. So it goes up to the brain and then it goes back down to the bladder. And then the brain sends that signal to the bladder and it tells the muscles to go ahead and start to contract or get ready so you can get that sensation to pee. So that's when you get the urge to pee. You go to the restroom, and then the muscles in the bladder, instead of relaxing to allow it to fill, it actually contracts to push the urine out. So it's all a functioning, and it's how it functions with the brain and with the bladder and all of the receptors and everything like that. And it's really cool if you think about it, but it's also quite simple. So hopefully that was able to simplify that for you. The main thing to remember is that your bladder is supposed to fill up with urine and it's supposed to release the urine. And once it does that, it's based on the physiology or the signaling that it gets from the brain. So if any part of that pattern is sending the wrong signal, or if any part of your body is getting the wrong signal, then it makes it really, really difficult for the bladder to function properly. So a lot of times the leakage and the problems with running is because of inadequate signaling from the brain or from the bladder, or the receptors in the bladder are getting the wrong signals as well if we're filling them up with a bunch of things that should not be there. So that's really the depiction that I wanted to show you. So that is how the bladder functions and how it works. Hopefully that gives you a really good idea of how things are going on and what's happening when you're allowing your bladder to fill up with urine and allowing it not to. And we're going to go into specific details, but I want you to keep this picture in your mind on why incontinence and why things like that could be occurring. See you in the next video.